Hello, everyone, and I would like to welcome you at this speech session about monitoring of gender content through our Mediascan tool. Imagine yourself leafing through the magazines or zipping through the TV channels or browsing through a social media feed and finding variations of one and the same narrative. The narrative where you probably are portrayed in a stereotypical way, or you do not see role models to relate to, or you just feel invisible in the narrative. And this could be because of your gender, or because of your socio-economic status, or your ethnicity, or a combination of things. From the early days on, we are framed by what we see in our families and communities, and we just take it along through our lives. Remember those pink and blue gender-appropriate toys, or maybe even someone scolding you. You're a girl, behave, be kind, or boys don't cry, don't be such a girl. This is our life baggage. And a few days ago, I actually came across an article which was about a historical election of the US Senator Kamala Harris. She was elected as US Vice President, and it was a great achievement. But the article reduced her to the modern beauty icon by focusing on her makeup and not celebrating her shattering the glass ceiling for all those girls around the world. So it made me think, this feeling of being disempowered, not recognized for your expertise and input, being invisible, this is probably true for about 50% of the global population. And you guessed it right, where we are going to. This speech is about women, all women, the way we experience sensitivity in the content media produces, but also about how we as consumers and the media can fix it by collecting the relevant data. The available research and survey just support the idea or confirm our perceptions that there's a multitude of issues in media. And just another example is that for every 3 men quoted in the COVID-19 pandemic coverage, there's only 1 woman quoted. Only 4% of the stories challenge stereotypes. So this is the reality we see, we consume. There's no doubt that media plays a very important role in influencing our gender perceptions, in let's think, how can we make media become aware of the content they produce? How can we make sure that they produce the content that is diverse, gender balanced, and is truly reflective of the societies we live in? Well, one of the steps we could take is monitoring the content of media. And we think it's a crucial step in addressing gender inequalities. The easier it is for media producers to be aware of their performance, the higher the chances are that they will take actions and they will improve the content and introduce the needed affirmative actions and policies within their newsrooms. The most known methodology on gender monitoring has been developed by the Global Gender Media Monitoring Project, and it is conducted on a global scale every 5 years. It is a very much needed resource when it comes to actually understanding how media are doing. But because it is taking place only every 5 years, we thought that we had to fill the gap. We had to make data available on a much more regular basis. Because our belief is once you have the data, you can see where the actions are needed to improve the imbalance. And this is how Free Press Unlimited, based in the Netherlands, and Tuindi came up with the idea to create Mediascan tool. Tuindi is a civic tech organization based in Mali. And through the last couple of years, we have been testing the tool in 3 countries. Mediascan works by collecting gender monitoring information through a mobile or web application and process it automatically in real time on a web interface. Data can be collected online and offline by a number of monitors. It then allows organizations to actually be in charge of the data they collect at the country-specific level. The platform is available currently for 4 types of media, namely newspapers, TV, radio, and online, with an opportunity to extend it by other types of media. It uses a number of specific basic indicators. Currently, we have 10. The platform is available in 2 languages, in English and French. We have tested them thoroughly, fixed up a few technical and linguistic issues in the apps. It is currently available on the Google Play Store. But what we wanted to have is to have comparable data across the countries. So here you can see how the graphs based on the questions you have answered look like. So the questions could be about the sex of a journalist, sex of the person interviewed, sex of sources, for example, specific group of women. Some indicators can be added when it comes to health and science, for example, about Ebola or currently about COVID-19. So there's a number of things that are in the standard package, but also a number of things that can be added based on the requirements of the media houses. It is user-friendly because it can be used offline. You can type all the information you need and then upload it later, which is very good for resources which are using unreliable infrastructures and internet connection. It is, as I said, something that collects the data that we believe is needed to start a dialogue with media houses or those who produce the content that we consume. And for us, data in itself is not an end goal, it's just a way to start a dialogue. And whether it's media houses themselves or policymakers that regulate media sector, this is up to the issues that we identify by collecting the data. Today, Mediascan tool is used in Mali, in Democratic Republic of Congo, and in Nepal. Our team in Mali has been very enthusiastic about the results, Every time the data is collected, the report is produced. It is shared with a number of media houses that have been monitored. And actually, the team went further than just collecting the data. They decided to create a gender independence and professionalism label, GIP label, to supplement the data monitoring data with a tool to encourage media houses who are already committed to gender equality within sector to do even more. So one of the examples of this GIP label is that out of 30 criteria, the media houses need to fulfill at least 21. Some of them are like with equal, they have to fulfill at least 30% of leadership positions in organizations and the like. So we have seen that taking the data just broader behind the media sector, addressing other stakeholders can actually produce a lot of good results. In Nepal, we have seen that our teams regularly share information with the media houses. They can do it at their own pace. Actually, they do it quite often, every quarter. And there were cases where there were no, zero bylines, women bylines, for example, in the content. And after the first discussions with the media houses, the bylines numbers increased. Some newsrooms also arranged pick up and drop services for their female journalists, especially for those who had to work in the evening shifts, during the evening shifts, to guarantee their safety. So we can see that every step in this process is quite important to promote the position of women in the media, in the newsrooms, but also the way they are portrayed. In DRC, together with the results of the gender monitoring data, a comprehensive guide containing 4,000 names of female experts was sent to media houses. The guide contains experts and sources on a number of topics. So you can think about sports, you can think about politics, you can think about science. And this guide is used by the media houses to actually make sure that when they are writing a story, they can look up for a female expert and reach out to them. We understand that any change, especially such a profound change we are talking about, requires a lot of effort, but it also requires a lot of commitment from a lot of people, from us as audiences, and from the media houses themselves who produce the content, but also from our policymakers. And we believe that by using this tool, we can create unemotional, relevant data to act upon. And one of the American civil rights activists said once, you can't be what you can't see. So think about it. You can't be what you can't see. And unless we make each of us visible in the content, each of us participating in debates and in narratives, we would not be able to truly promote gender equality in the media. We need extra commitment from all of us. We need investment, and we need to advocate for gender equality and track the progress of it. So that's it. If you have any questions about the gender media monitoring tool, then we can discuss them now. And otherwise, you can always reach out to us. Yeah, I have a question here. It says, what have been the results in the 3 countries of implementation of the Mediascan tool? So these are DRC, Mali, and Nepal. And what has been done by the media in those countries to improve the representation of women? Well, as I mentioned, in Mali, this went beyond the report itself. It created actually a sought-after award, the JIP label, for which media houses are competing. We have witnessed increase of female bylines and sources and experts throughout. In some countries, marginal. In Nepal, for example, we have seen increase in the very first stages from 0 to 9 in one state-owned paper. We also, in DRC, created a database of 4,000 women experts. What are the stereotypes of women in the media? How are women portrayed in the media? Well, you can think about female journalists, for example, reporting about so-called soft issues. So you can think about fashion, you can think about anything beauty related, maybe health, but not in the role of expert, or a reporting on care responsibilities. How are women portrayed in the media? Yes, so when it comes to gender-based violence, for example, this is an issue where media really have to pay attention to, because very often they use insensitive language. They also use victim-blaming language. So, for example, yeah, you shouldn't have been there at that time of the day. You shouldn't have worn that or that, you know. So we have to be really aware of what message are we putting out. Who are your partners? Which media have you? Which media have used your tool? In Mali, we work with Twindi. This is not a media house, but in total, we have collaborated through our partners with around 65 organizations. In DRC, this is UKFM, and in Nepal, this is Freedom Forum. What can the media do to improve the portrayal of women in the media? What practical measures? What are your recommendations to improve the representation of women in the media? Well, we believe that we can actually do this by addressing a number of things. Think about gender monitoring data that you can collect yourself, so you can create self-monitoring methodologies, which already exist, by the way. You can use this Mediascan tool as external gender media monitoring. As editors, you can think about editorial policies that are gender sensitive, gender transformative. You can introduce policies within your media houses that actually take into account the needs of your women personnel. And I mean, by women, I mean all women in their diversity. What else can we do? And of course, use every opportunity you have to influence policymakers, to take it out a bit broader to other stakeholders. What are your next moves? Well, as I said, our next move is that we believe that this methodology is quite user-friendly, it's efficient, and it also provides the media with a mirror, but without blaming, we are able to discuss the results with them. So what we need to have committed investment to this type of initiatives. We want to fundraise further to scale up this project to more countries. We can use the knowledge hubs that we can have currently in Mali, in Nepal, and DRC to actually help us in building up the project further. We are going to definitely track progress and think about COVID-19, so including extra indicators and seeing what is going on with female bylines, for example, in which roles in the college-related story the women are portrayed, how they're affected by policies. So this is all about how media react to the reports that we are producing. So we are definitely going to stay on top of tracking the progress. Yeah, I think so far we have the major questions answered. So if something comes up, please write your questions. We still have a few minutes. What else can I add about the program itself? Well, how it's set up, we have 3 tiers. We have admin, who has all rights to the platform and has privileges to the backend access. We have controllers who ensure the quality of information that we get through the apps or web form. And we have monitors who provide the data. You can visualize your data, which is also helpful when you're going to have your next appointment with a media house to discuss the results. So then immediately you can see, okay, what do we see in the sex of journalists? What topics they report on? What about our sources? What about a community which is normally excluded? What is the role of women in fragile settings, etc.? How does our content represents women living with disability or people living with disability? So you can actually expand the system to meet the needs of your outlet. So there's, as I said, 10 basic indicators. You need to work in the global standard system, but you can definitely adapt it to your needs. And this makes this methodology quite interesting if you're interested to track your progress, to act upon it, and to be more gender sensitive. How do you hope this edition of the Paris Peace Forum will support the work of your project? Well, we believe that just talking about things does not help. You have to campaign. You have to make sure that people understand the need for it. And by pitching for this Mediascan tool, we believe we can convey a message that we cannot deny the role media plays in either helping us to create inclusive societies or actually polarizing societies. And we definitely want to create a more inclusive content which is reflective of what we are. What major challenges did you face? From major challenges, we can probably, before COVID, name a few things like a lack of IT people who, well, first of all, there's just a scarce, there's a bad market situation, so to say, when it comes to IT specialists, but also retaining IT specialists because they are so well sought after. You need to be prepared to pay more than your competitors. And for an NGO, a non-profit organization, it's a task that is not easily fulfilled. What we did, the platform is an open source, so in a way, you know, we could now manage with the small team, and we hope that we can expand the team with more experts to help us scale up. Another thing we are, which was challenging, of course, access to internet, because it's so unreliable in some spaces. That's why we came up with this idea of offline data collection, uploading the data later. Then in COVID-19, it's working in the lockdown situations when actually some of the monitors didn't have access to monitoring locations anymore. And we had to adapt, and we had to work mostly online. So that means that if you want to train a group of new monitors, then you're quite restricted because they also don't normally have a space to have internet connection, which is stable enough and which is affordable enough for them to use. If you want to know more, please, we're always welcome to share more. We're always welcome. We will welcome you to share tips and tricks and join us in our work to promote gender equality in the media.